I snapped off my middle tooth here, and I didn't notice right away, so it's somewhere out there. I'll never find it. I'll replace it at some point. But anyway, then I figured it was time to inspect all of these, and a few rivets popped out. But on every tooth, the second rivet ripped out. There's one here, and then another one, then two in the top. But in every one, the second one ripped out. Why would all the second rivets rip out? What's special about those ones? Well, those are the rivets that attach this piece to the other piece under here. Anyway, okay, this piece comes up like this, right? And then there's also a piece that goes down like that. That's the rivet that attaches those two pieces together. And what this triangulated thing does is it keeps this whole thing from twisting, so that when I'm hitting dirt here and this wants to twist down because I've got my puller backer way on the other side, so you know this can pull that way and then the dirt down here is pulling this way, the whole thing wants to twist. But then since this is kind of box tubed, it keeps the whole thing rigid. But it put so much pressure on it that it popped all those rivets. And then I inspected the ones up here and they're all loose. So I'm going to replace, well, I already did one. I'm replacing all the second rivets here that are already ripped out anyway with bolts. So I'm just drilling them out bigger to accommodate the bolts. And then I'm going to drill out all these rivets up here and replace those with bolts too. Oh, and right here, I was trying to see if I could thread this stainless steel, which is kind of hard because stainless steel is hard. And I broke a tap in there. Grr. I mean, the only reason I even risked it is because I got a bunch of extra taps that size in one of my buckets of surplus stuff I bought recently. Oh, and as if solar powered vehicles need any more awesomeness, they're also their own portable power stations. I love solar panels. They're like magic, magic happiness in a sheet. They're like sheets of magic happiness. That's what they are. Because I could be anywhere on the planet as long as I have sun. Occasionally, don't even need sun all the time. Anyway, as long as I occasionally have sun, I've got electricity here with this vehicle. Oh, I love it. Alright, if these bolts break, then I have some, these are 1/4 inch, I have some 5/16 I could use to replace them. But I think these ones will be alright. They're significantly stronger than the rivets, and the rivets lasted a while. I guess I should put one through here, even though the tooth is gone. Alright, that should be good for those, except for the one I screwed up. Now those guys. Get off there. Sweet. They even got nice big fat washers on there. Alright, another minor problem I mentioned the other day was that my nuts were loose. And then I checked them the next day and they were starting to get a little loose then too. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Something must be causing these to get loose. So I better use my brains and figure it out. So, thought about it for a second. Go ahead, think about it for a second. Why would the nuts get loose on the wheels here? Figured out yet? Alright. This has a lot of torque in it. So when this middle part turns, even with these 4 bolts on it, it's gonna shift a little bit against the wheel. Not a lot, it'll just rotate a tiny bit. And then when it's going back the other way, it'll rotate back a tiny bit. So since this part and this part are rotating back and forth, just like a tiny fraction of a degree, but you know, 150 times, it adds up. Each time it twists the bolt a tiny bit against the nut. Now, there's a bias. So if the nut and the bolt are kind of twisting back and forth, like there's pressure pushing them back and forth, it's going to tend to loosen more than it tightens, because it's easier to loosen it than it is to tighten it. So over time, driving back and forth here hundreds of times with lots of torque on it, moving it as much as possible, the nuts will just slowly loosen. So I'm going to try to take away some of that bias just by putting putting a second nut on the end of each one of these. And then with that tightened against the other nut, that should help prevent them from moving. Oh, good job, Brains. Oh, Brains. Oh, good job, guys. There we go, double nuts everywhere. I've been driving this thing since I made it pretty much non-stop. Like every day I'm out here driving back and forth, pushing dirt around, and the last couple days it's been cloudy. And I was mildly concerned that I might be running the batteries down. So yesterday, after driving all day, I got out my multimeter and checked the voltage on the batteries. It's a 24 volt system, and the batteries were reading 27.4 volts, which is basically fully charged. That was at the end of the day. I'm super impressed with how efficient this whole thing is. Like the only real damage or problem or anything I've had with this thing is just that one tooth I've snapped off in the front. It's lost somewhere. But I can replace that, and I've already bolted the other ones on better. I'm just super happy with this machine. It is going really, really super well. And it's cut my digging time way down. And not just that, it's like I've done tons of digging like this before, and I would just end up eating like 10,000 calories a day, and I'd still lose weight. Like when I dug a 1.5 miles of road in Vermont through the mountains. Someone mentioned this the other day. They said, oh, that digging you're doing doesn't look any harder than when you dug that road in Vermont. And no, it's not any harder, I would say. It's probably about the same kind of thing. This might be a little bit harder because there's more transporting of dirt. But it's kind of along the same lines. But when I dug that road in Vermont, I lost 25 pounds in a month. And I can't afford to do that here, because when I did that before, I was fully rested at the beginning, and then I worked like crazy for a month, lost 25 pounds, and then I got it back at the end. But here, I didn't start this rested, and when I'm done this, I just have more to do. So this is more like, you know, several years marathon. So I can't lose 25 pounds a month. I'll be gone pretty soon. So this thing is really helping with that. Now this one arm back here is getting a little bit bent. Still has plenty of strength though. And I have not been gentle with this thing at all. You know, I've just kind of been like driving up, hitting a root that'll stop the thing with the wheel spinning, then I'll back up and ram into it and hit the root a few times till it rips out. And you know, I'll use my lever here to pull the bucket to like pry stuff up. I'm just being very rough with it because I want to test everything and see how it goes. And I'm just super impressed with how it's holding up. Oh, and I can clip my little curtain thingy to be wherever the sun is. Oh, this is